Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our February 2nd workshop on this blustery, cold day. Before we begin the work of the district, let us stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to begin the morning with public input. Leland Thoreau. Hi, good morning.
Did you guys miss me?
Cheerio. I know, like Cheerio. Give him some tutorials.
Good morning, Superintendent Kornicki and board members Luke, Cunningham, Dodd, Mathias, and Brandenburg. My name is Leland Theriault. You guys all know me through my work as the president of Lake Community Arts, but today I am here simply as an informed and concerned citizen of Lake County, specifically concerned about teacher pay. I relocated to Claremont from Sarasota in 2022. I'm a retired music educator who left the classroom in 2018 to serve as the executive director for the Florida Alliance for Arts Education. In that role, I manage 7 statewide grant programs, 4 in partnership with the Florida Department of Education. And I work closely with arts curriculum specialists and district leaders across the state of Florida, especially during COVID. When I moved to Lake County, I was aware that the district did not have a dedicated arts education specialist. What surprised me more, however, was how similar Lake County schools and Sarasota County schools actually are, and yet how different the outcomes are for educators. Both districts serve roughly the same number of students. Both operate about 62 schools. Both employ a comparable number of teachers and staff. But Sarasota County's general operating budget is approximately $613 million, compared with $503 million in Lake County, a difference of about $110 million. That gap translates directly into salary support and stability for educators. Oh my goodness, the faces right now. The end result is clear. Sarasota County teachers earn, on average, somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 more per year than their counterparts here in Lake County. One of the key drivers of this difference is the local school millage rate. Sarasota's local millage is only slightly higher than Lake County's. To put that into perspective, in my Claremont community in Kingsridge, there are 2,088 homes. If we were paying the millage charged at Sarasota's rate instead of Lake County's, my annual property tax would increase by about $32 for the whole year. But if every home in my community was paying that increase, it would generate nearly $67,000 to our schools. That's just one neighborhood. I firmly believe that with a modest increase in the local millage, Lake County could meaningfully improve compensation for teachers, administrators, and support staff without placing an undue burden on taxpayers. Right now, Lake County ranks 47th in the state for average teacher pay. Our teachers can and do leave for surrounding districts where their salaries are higher. Some can increase their pay simply by working from home for Florida Virtual School. This is not a talent problem. This is an investment problem. I urge you to take the necessary steps to increase the local millage by about 0.25 mils. This very small adjustment would make a real difference and send a clear message that Lake County values its educators and it's committed to retaining them. Thank you for your time, your service, and your leadership.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth Emery.
Thank you, Chair, board members, and Superintendent Kornicki. I'm grateful and excited to be here today and for the opportunity to speak with you. As you know, we are committed to supporting the educators and staff and our community here in Lake. There is so much to celebrate in Lake County schools. We're an A-rated district with exceptional educators and staff. Our Teacher of the Year and Employee of the Year celebration was outstanding last week. Our graduation rate is the highest in district history. And we're home to the Superintendent of the Year, as well as past Florida Principals and Teachers of the Year. So we have a lot to celebrate here in Lake. The recent instructional ratification of the 25-26 collective bargaining agreement had 1,621 ballots cast, 58% of the bargaining unit. 83% voted in favor of the tentative agreement. While that is a strong majority, it took a lot of work for that ratification to go smoothly, and it is a decline from last year's 96% approval and 66% participation. Many educators expressed concerns about this agreement, and this was the smallest salary increase since 2020. Our bargaining team understands this is tied to limited state funding, declining enrollment, and other factors outside of the district's control. But regardless of the cause, we must find solutions to attract and retain the high-quality educators who make our success possible. Competition in education is higher than ever. As of July 2025, and this would obviously change with this new ratification, Lake County ranked 43rd in average teacher salary, and nearly every neighboring district ranks higher. Marion County, which has similar enrollment to Lake, is ranked 29th. And I'm happy to share that data as well with y'all if you would like it. We know the state is not funding Lake County school and teacher salaries at the level our educator deserves. That means we must look locally. Nearly all comparable or neighboring districts have a millage dedicated to employee compensation. Lake County Schools is the largest employer in the county, and almost every family has a personal connection to our schools. Voters understand the importance of supporting the people who educate their children. Lake County school employees will be highly motivated to support this, and it will positively impact morale. A salary millage would strengthen our ability to compete for top educators, improve student outcomes, and support the long-term economic health of our community. We are here to support this work and to continue collaborating for the success of our educators, students, and community. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to continuing the discussion.
Thank you. Jessica Sawicki.
Chair, board members, and superintendent, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. This conversation is about hope. Hope that doing this work does not require sacrifice without stability. Hope that commitment to our students is met with commitment from our system. And hope that Lake County Schools continues to invest in the people who make learning possible. Lake County Schools is an A-rated district, and there is no doubt that the leadership has played an important role in achieving this success. Vision matters, direction matters, support matters. And at the same time, the A rating is earned every single day by educators and support staff who are meeting expectations and going far beyond them. They feel that pride deeply, and they just as strongly feel that their hard work should be recognized with more than words. When we talk about expanding the referendum to include salaries, we are not talking about numbers on a spreadsheet. We are talking about people, the people behind that A rating. The qualitative data tells a powerful story. We hear it in conversations when educators resign. We hear it in listening sessions, and we hear it in the stories that surface in our community, sometimes unexpectedly. Recently, we went to lunch, and our server was a former first-year teacher, someone who didn't even make it through a full year in the classroom before realizing she simply couldn't afford to stay. Just this weekend, a post circulated from an educator who shared that she has been diagnosed with breast cancer while also caring for a family member with disabilities, all while trying to continue showing up for her students. We know a single mother working 4 jobs just to make ends meet, 4 jobs, while raising a child and serving in our schools. And we have to ask ourselves, how much time does that parent actually get to spend with her own daughter? These are not isolated stories. They are becoming far too common. And yet, despite all of this, our educators and support staff continue to show up. They continue to meet expectations, and they continue to carry this district forward. This is where the opportunity before you matters. Salary is not about extras. It's about dignity. It is about recognition. It is about showing educators and support staff that their dedication is seen, valued, and respected. By choosing to invest in salaries, you are choosing stability, you are choosing recognition, and most importantly, you are choosing hope. I respectfully ask you to choose hope for our staff, our students, and the future of Lake County Schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And speaking of hope, we're going to move right into it. So I'd like to invite Mr. Stephen Vancore up to the front. You're going to have 3.01 and 3.02. Mr. Vancore is a principal in Vancore Jones Communications. He has done some work for us already, and he's going to give us that report.
Thank you. Appreciate you letting me be here. Thank you very much. Can you put up the PowerPoint? Or
They will in the back. Mr. Vancore, there's a controller right there. You're welcome to sit, or you're welcome to stand at the podium, wherever you're more comfortable.
this will be fine.
Okay, great.
So I'm the president of Clearview Research, and we have been doing polling in the state for about 20 years. I have personally been polling for about 40 years. We have a great reputation. We do it all over the state and pretty much every county at one point or another. And this area has been a special area for us. And for example, this year alone, we've already done about 17 polls in county districts trying to understand voters' attitudes towards either half-penny taxes for the schools, full penny or half-penny for counties, as well as millage increases. So what we did is we used what's known in the business as the gold standard. It's just live outbound callers, Florida-based callers calling to a list of registered voters. We modeled the sample to do our best job to try to predict what the electorate will look like in the coming November election. And so we modeled our sample as closely as possible to look like what we anticipate the population would be. We got 400 likely voters in Lake County. We talked to them. We looked at 5 important variables to make sure our sample looked like the population. For example, we used gender. So we know at approximately 52% of the electorate will be female in the upcoming November election. Our poll is 52% female. We also balanced it by party registration, by geography, by age, and as well as race, ethnicity, to make sure as many variables as we can control for to make it look as much like the population. With that, it has a very narrow margin of error, and made even narrower by the fact that the questions are skewed because of the response set, which is all good. So we tested 2 different things. We wanted to test what would the current renewal, if you just renewed the current system 4 years, if you do that, and your lawyer, I think, will tell you can't change a word. It has to be the same agreement, the same contract, the same amount moving forward. And in testing that, we found overwhelming support, about a 3-to-1 level of support among voters. 64% said yes, they would vote for it if the election were held today. Now, of course, we know the election's not going to be held today, but these things tend to be relatively stable. It's not like we hear about polls and presidential elections, and you're constantly being fed news about that. These things don't do that. We could poll this in another 5 months, and I'm pretty confident it would be plus or minus 2 or 3 points on the 64%, unless something cataclysmic happens. But we tested the existing language, and it came out 64-24. Good, but not great. And I'll tell you what I'm talking about there is if you're running for office, let's say, Mr. Chairman, it's me versus you, and you've got 64% and I got 24%, we would anticipate that would be a landslide. Referenda don't work that way. The way referenda work, it's really 64 versus the 50. And these things tend to have a downward trajectory, so that if 1 or 2 group members come out and says, I don't like it, that negative tends to have more power than any positive messaging. So what we try to do is develop the very best language to elevate that as much as possible, assuming if you're putting it on the ballot, that means you also want it to pass. So we tested something else as well. We tested, and I was a little surprised about this because just so you know, historically, in the state of Florida, no millage renewal has ever failed. Now, I don't want to put that out of context in this regard. Most of these pass anyway. All right, so these are generally not difficult. I mean, it makes sense. People like their teachers. They like their local schools. They want to see their money kept local because every dollar raised from this stays right here in Lake County. It doesn't go to the state. It doesn't go to the feds. But normally, renewal is a very powerful word. But we tested some different language based on our experience. So we also tested a 1 mil, which would increase your current 0.75 to 1, up to 1. And we used what we thought was our best language based on our numerous polls we've done. And what we like to do is, like, say, make it really clear to the voters what they're voting on in order to recruit and retain high-quality teachers and to meet the requirements of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act for the enhancement of school safety, security, and mental health. Shall the school district levy up to 1 mil ad valorem tax for 4 years, creating a sustainable funding source that is critical for improving and maintaining safety for our children and to increase teacher pay. Now, this polled a little higher. I was frankly a little surprised because we do this a lot, and renewal is a very, very powerful word or extension of, but more powerful than that is raising teacher pay. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So the way we like to approach this is we take what we consider the best ballot language in total. I've got 15-word title and a 75-word summary to operate off of. And what I do then is I break down the ingredients of that item. For example, public safety, school security, raising teacher pay, et cetera, et cetera. And when we do that, we also notice the direction of the schools, not a big deal. And this is more reflective, frankly, of the national environment, a lot of negativity out there. So they want to see a change in the direction of the schools. There were more people who said things were headed in the wrong direction than right direction. We didn't delve into that more. And I know it's got to be mind-boggling to you. You got the superintendent of the year. You have all these A schools. You're doing really well, but the public wants better, which is nice that they want a higher standard. So what we did is we broke out some of the elements of the language, and we found, and I've created this system we called elevator anchor analysis. What I do is we test the ballot itself, and then we test the individual ingredients of the ballot. And what we look at is those items that poll above the ballot. In other words, the voters are more pleased with that. I call that an elevator. If it polls below, we call that an anchor. Now, what we usually do is recommend that the elevators all stay in the ballot language, in the ballot summary, where the anchors are taken out. You still may do those things, they're just not in the summary. Now, the one thing which we did not test on here, but we know from hundreds and hundreds of polls, dozens and dozens of polls, is that the charter language that's required by state is often a net negative. It pulls it down a little bit. So we did not test it here, but on advice of counsel, we're going to include that language in our recommendation. If you change, if you stay with the old one, you don't need to change anything, but if you go with the full mill, it would be our recommendation at this point to add in language saying a proportionate share goes to charter schools as required by Florida law. But you'll see here, when we say help recruit and retain highly qualified teachers, more likely to vote for it, you hit almost 80%. Same thing with raised teacher pay. Funding for schools, security and safety, also very popular. Mental health services, also very, very popular. When you get to the generic and preserve important school programs, not so much. Still above the ballot, so technically these are all elevators. But those first four are very, very strong. So with that, and working at council and with your council, we came up with, if you're going to go to the full mill, now that's your choice, right? I think that's what you're contemplating today. Do you stick with the current one, which is a renewal, or do you go to the full mill? And we added some other enhancers as well. For example, we know that telling people that every dollar stays right here, that the money stays local, is one of the most powerful elevators we have. We also know that Citizens Advisory Committee, somebody to look over. You know, it is a misinterpretation of the way people vote to say, oh, Republicans are against taxes. They're not. But they are, as fiscal conservatives, you want to say, I want to make sure my money is properly spent. I want to make sure there's an oversight committee to make sure the money's not spent for something else. And they especially love when the money stays local. And that's what universally brings both together. So we feel confident that if this language would be there, Adding the fact that we added staying local and reviewed by an independent citizen review committee would elevate it even further, probably into the high 60s. So with that, I'm open and available for any questions.
Yeah, I've got a couple. Thank you. That was a fantastic presentation.
Because it was short, right?
You hit the high-level points, so I appreciate it, yeah. My concern, and I certainly trust your professional judgment, but when I look at the sample size of 400 likely voters relative to the 270,000 voters in Lake, I mean, that's 0.15% of the total voting population, and making decisions based on this good data, but still based on that small of a sample size, in my mind, relative to property tax issues and other referendums on the ballot. Being mindful, I certainly support teacher pay, and I certainly support this $1 million increase, but I also want to be cognizant of not jeopardizing our 0.75, because if we were to increase this and then lose that 0.75, that $30 million hole or so is just as painful, if not more painful. And wanting to make sure that we craft this language in a way, if we do choose to go to the full mill, to limit that downside as much as possible. I am encouraged by the data that you're showing here, but again, can you just speak to the 400 being appropriate in your mind and,
Absolutely,
and how that
absolutely.
works? I
And
think
there's
that's
a
my
whole-
biggest concern.
A whole master seminar on why
please.
400 is a really good sample. Many times we'll go in with 300. So the way bell curve statistics work, if you draw a random sample, just a straight random sample, you don't know that it's representative. If you so we draw a random sample that's also representative, and what we learned many years of doing this, it comes out to be pretty accurate in terms of predicting the entire model. The best analogy I could think of is when you draw blood for your doctor, you draw a millionth of a percent when they take a little drop and they put it on a thing. But that's a random sample of your blood, and it's highly accurate to say what your blood sugar is or what your cholesterol is or whatever those things. Parametric statistics work the same way. When you get above 300, you start to have what's called margin of error, which is based on the bell curve, how many standard deviations from the mean that is. When you get to 400, it's much narrower. The better news is that's based on a two yes/no question that's 50-50 in reality, also known as the worst case example. When you skew it, which this is, and skew is normally a bad word, but that doesn't mean it's biased. It means the data set is lumped towards the mean is slid over to the 64%. So I'm very confident. And like last cycle, we did about 18 polls on these issues, and all of them came within 2 to 3 points of the final ballot. Now, that does not mean there's sometimes a game change. For some odd reason in Monroe County, it jumped 20 points. In a couple of other counties, it dropped about 6 points. But by and large, they come out pretty accurate that way. So in my professional opinion, my master's is in market research, 400 sample is fantastic.
Okay.
You see statewide polls all the time at 500 samples, and they're pretty accurate, too.
Well, I think the rest of my questions will go towards 3.02 within, okay, if we go forward with this, how do we market it effectively to ensure that that data or the results come out close to that point and get us what we need to be?
That's a really good question, because the law has been changing on that.
Sure, and with the other factors in play, with the governor's pushes and the legislature's pushes, just making sure we're being mindful of that. My only
you want
other
me to answer
question.
those, or?
Yeah, if you don't mind, sure.
Oh, yeah, no. So the two things. Let me answer the second question first about what's potentially going to be on the ballot. What we have found is, through extensive research in this, is that one poll item rarely affects another poll item, unless, for those of you who have as many gray hairs as I do, remember in 2018 when there was a whole bunch of them on the ballot, and they were really long. There was, I think, 14 of them. The only one that failed, by the way, was to lower property taxes, ironically. The rest of them all passed by about a similar margin, so you had pattern voting here. You normally don't get that in these kind of things. We did extensive research in Manatee County, Marion County, and Brevard County on this very issue, because for those we had the half penny up and a new millage at the same time. So we were fortunate enough to have vendors who were willing to pay for polls. We did 2 or 3 or 4 different ways, and we did focus groups. And what you find is, if a voter likes this, they're going to vote yes. And you have a powerful one here with teacher pay. We see those kind of numbers. If they see the property tax thing, when we don't know, if there's even going to be one on the ballot, given the breakdown in the legislative process, or what that will look like. So I can't predict that. But I am fairly confident these things travel alone and travel separately. Now, as to your other question about how do you market this, If you're polling that high, I would first recommend you do very little, because when, it's like, to use a sporting analogy, if your team's ahead, what you're mostly watching is the clock, right? Like, come on, go clock. Same way in campaigns, referenda campaigns. But there's two tracks on these things. Track one is, what can the government do? And I'll let Scott answer those questions. But by and large, you can't spend and send, meaning you can spend some money. For example, you can update your website. What will the money go to? You can spend money to develop materials so that if you go to a Kiwanis Club, an EDC meeting, a chamber meeting, you can hand stuff out. You can develop a PowerPoint presentation. You can hire a consulting firm to help guide all that. But what you cannot do is send out information unsolicited to voters. So your hands are a little tied on that. What a lot of school districts will also do, people in the community get together, either with the business community, the development community. I mean, the best example ever was Manatee County. The developers there said, we have C-rated schools. We want A-rated schools, because guess what happens if I'm DH Norton or one of those companies, and I'm building 5,000 homes. If they're an A school district, that's $10,000 more per home, right? And so they saw the value of better teacher pay, and they heavily funded it. So you have a separate political committee, if you like, to set up from people within the community to go ahead and push for something like that. Their limitations are minimal. They have to adhere to Florida election law, and that's it.
Okay, perfect. And I've got one last question, comment and a question. Board, I did speak with Jennifer Barker from the county office this morning, and at this point, they are not considering any referendums of their own. There was some talk about a gas tax and some other items for them, but as of now, they do not plan on having anything else on the ballot for the county themselves, which I think is helpful as we consider this conversation. And last question for you, sir, on the recommended language, I think it's good. I know there's the word count. Does this hit it pretty close, or does this hit it on the number? The only reason I ask is I think some mention of
73.
I think some mention of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas is important. I think voters know what that means and what that is. And while we've got a lot of really good language in here, if there would be a way to work that in, like operational purposes, I don't know if that really matters. Once you look at the rest of it, I like the review board. I like the charter school proportion share. I think those are helpful to the voters. But I think I would rather not leave it up to chance it anyway. I mean, the Falcons were up 28-3, thought they had it in the bag, and that didn't happen. So even though this voting is good, I think Marjorie Stoneman Douglas to some levels just helps our cause even more. Just want to throw that out there for consideration, or your professional opinion on that as well.
Well, we have two more. I think we have, Scott, we have a two-word.
2 words.
2 words.
You take out operational purposes, you got 2 more.
Now, what's
4
interesting
words.
is Escambia blew through that limit, because their lawyer, I often joke that 67 counties, 67 different lawyers, 67 different opinions. Their lawyer didn't think they had to adhere to the 75 words. It was never challenged. But having worked with Scott, he's relatively conservative on these things, as would I be. Yeah. And so if we can find a way to get MSD in there, we can take some other things out. But we have, I feel strongly we need to keep it to 75. You don't want to be the test case.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be the test case either. I agree. Yeah, so I think 4 operational purposes could get us 3 more words and look at some of the rest. But just, I've talked a lot, so I'll be quiet.
Yeah, if operational expenses is blah, we don't know what that means, but we know what MSD is.
Mrs. Cunningham?
Thank you for your presentation, very enlightening. I just have one question. Based on our population in Lake County, I'm sure you're aware, we have a lot of people who have no vested interest in the school system. I hear it all the time. Did you take that into consideration, our aged population, and how did they figure into those 400 that you polled? Were there a greater percentage? Or how did we take?
It's a really good question. Of course, yes, we did. We balanced the poll by age, and if you look at the crosstabs, and I'll be happy to send them to you. Okay. It's a 168-page document. I'm sure you'll comb through it. What I love is that senior citizens tend to be as, if not more, supportive of these initiatives. And
not a senior citizen.
And as a newly anointed senior citizen myself, I think part of the reason is that you have, when you're little, you have a small event horizon. When you get older, you see things clear and long term. I think they recognize the value of having a high-quality public school system and generally support these things. Even people on fixed income. So yes, ma'am, we did balance it by age. Our poll will looks to, I can't predict what what the electorate will actually look like. I based it on current voter registration trends and what off-year elections tend to look like. And so we balanced it as much as possible by that. But yeah, older folks are not less likely to support.
Good to know. Thank you.
Well, I find a lot of comfort in your numbers and in this potential solution for us. I mean, if we're waiting on Tallahassee to solve the lopsided budget where we stand, we'll never get that fixed.
I hear that a lot.
Right. And I mean, I see the faces of people out there who are directly impacted because they're the ones taking home the paycheck every week that is, not representative of what their counterparts are getting in other districts. We also hear that disparity just in neighboring districts versus ours. So I think this is a great solution. I'm really excited that we're able to work beyond the means of the 0.75 to create a vehicle for this. My wondering is in the language. I'm going to go back to the language piece. It's when the one that you polled, that updated language there, you had 66% there, and one of your highest elevators, I think second from the top there, was raise teacher pay. Those are the last words in that ballot. That's the last thing I linger on and I hear. But then in the proposed language, that teacher pay seems to get buried in the middle, and I'm wondering if how would that impact?
Yeah, our cup flow with over on that. It's good, really good questions. Our cup flow with over on that. Yes, teacher pay is the most powerful. I, like you, believe in primacy recency from our extensive research on voter behavior. What you see is voters will walk in and they'll look at the ballot title, start here, scan, and go to the end, and then drop over. The middle tends to be Charlie Brown's mom, right?
100%.
But like I said, our cup flow with over, we have Citizens Oversight Committee is very popular. Keeping the money local is very popular. Teacher pay are very popular. And so that's why we say it in the final language, as I recall, twice.
Yeah, in that final language, it's...
Yeah, in order to recruit and retain teachers, I mean, you have a little room. You could put something about teacher pay in the ballot language, but we can certainly move that around. If we get to our 75, Scott and I can take that and scramble it around till we end with teacher pay, if that would be your recommendation.
Well, I guess I'm wondering what's the strongest piece. Did you?
We did not on this
the-
one. We did not. We were on a very tight budget, so we kept the questions short. But
Okay.
I will tell you, from having done this, the local and the Independent Citizen Review Committee are always, fan favorites.
Sure.
But teacher pay is your most powerful. So if we ended with, in order to raise teacher pay, I would have no opposition to that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I just wonder about, Tyler, I agree with you, the operational purposes there. I don't want it to look like we're just hiding behind some bureaucracy that people don't really understand or mean.
Yeah, what we found, to Tyler's point, is enhanced school safety is just as strong as saying MSD in particular, and that always eats. My general thing is that eats so many words,
Sure.
and you're limited to just 75 outside of Escambia. Enhancing school safety prominently put up there. So.
Yeah, well, I like the mention of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas
Sure.
Act. I think a proper noun in there, gives maybe some legitimacy of this is, like we're trying to comply with what we're directed to do, and this is the funding source to do that.
That's a very good point.
You know,
yeah.
and
It's interesting
It's not
because,
optional,
like I said, I've
right?
been polling this
Correct.
a long time. School safety was never ranked high. It was, it was often an elevator, but a gentle, slow one. Since 2008, February 14, 2018, it's been tops. But what's interesting, it's starting to fade just a wee bit. Still strong, but teacher pay continues to rocket high. And when you have the governor appropriately saying we need to raise teacher pay as
Right.
well, that gives us kind of one of those rare unified apple mothers and apple pie message kind of thing we have. Everybody seems to agree improving teacher pay is important.
Sure. I love the idea. I would just like to play with the wording a little bit.
Sure.
And get us to some.
In my mind, we've got 6 words to work with between for operational purposes, and I don't think we need support in front of staff pay without wordsmithing this thing entirely. And if you've got the other 2, if we're at 73, then 6 words in some portion for either teacher pay or Marjorie Stoneman Douglas or something of the sort. Just food for thought.
Okay. Scott, we can work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you done?
Are you done?
Yes, Mrs. Luke.
Dr.
Luke.
It's
Doctor.
with that. You said the first and the last. Was it the title though, Lake County School District ad valorem tax, or is it you have the teacher it doesn't say teacher pay, but the insinuation of recruiting and retaining teachers and enhancing school safety, the first sentence, and then the last sentence is the local.
Yeah, I think there's essentially two primaries, right? The first is the title, and then they start to read what it does.
And then it
Generally
flips it on.
slide through it if they like it. Oh, good. That's why I always believe in putting the most important thing first, because they'll make a decision right then. Oh, yeah. In order to recruit and retain teachers, I like that. Whatever else is enhancing and supporting that, not contradicting it. Yeah, so so the primacy recency, and it's a little fuzzy, right? Because I do these focus groups, and they'll raise their hand and tell me what they're liking or not liking. But generally, it's this plus this, and then close out there.
Okay, yeah. The only other thing I was wondering, and this kind of blends into the next agenda item, is do we have any understanding yet if our like home builders associations and our real estate agencies, like do we know if those people are coming in support of yet?
Well, we have not gone out and really tested the water because I wanted to see what language we ended up with.
Right.
So just with some conversations, I know our sheriff and other municipal police departments are absolutely on board. They understand how significant this is for improving school safety. And so he, at Teacher of the Year, he said, when do we get started? So he's ready to roll, and I know with his support,
Good.
I think we'll, certainly once we have the language, one of the things we'll be asking for is some help from Mr. Vancore and his group to go out and do the marketing, meeting with our homeowners association and every group. So it's going to be a busy couple of months for sure.
Yeah, I was kind of laughing at the illusion of time. I've watched so many basketball games where they do run the clock out, and then in the last 20 seconds, it comes down to this buzzer beater
Yeah, why
situation.
watch the first
and
three
why do we
quarters?
do that? Right, I'm like, I don't even understand that concept, but thinking about an election year and thinking about the people that are going to be coming to the ballot and so forth, I think that's going to be an important driver that the community supports it, and I certainly think they will. To your point, you said in your presentation, it's kind of interesting that we have an A district, the superintendent of the year, and we still have some people that think it's moving in the wrong direction. So I think this is a prime opportunity for us to not only support our workforce, but to also elevate the perception of what is really happening in Lake County schools. I think that'll be like a prominent driver for our communication purposes. It's just
Yeah,
let
and
people know.
we've actually had the support of local realtors, like formally, like sending out mailers in support of this, because they too recognize if I live off commissions of selling a home,
Yes.
and I'm selling a home in an A district, I'm going to get a higher commission as a result of that. Because let's face it, schools and homes in poor performing districts don't sell as well or for as much as in high performing districts. But sometimes they're split because they're like, oh, we don't need more property taxes.
Right.
But on the other hand, we want really, really good schools.
Yeah. Well, and it is empowering, to Mr. Dodd's point about having to sit and kind of, I always say that I want to be driving the crazy bus rather than sitting on it. And I feel like if we just sit on it and continue to sit on it, we don't see much traction in that regard. So it'd be nice to be able to drive our own conversations around what we expect our teachers and our staff to be paid. So, yeah.
Very good. Okay, now you can get to Downer Debbie.
Oh, here we go.
So I want to remind everyone, and both Mark and Dr. Luke and I, we first went out for the .75 because we wanted to control our destiny. We knew we had to provide safety and security, and equally important was mental health. And it polled really high, and we won by 58%. So there is this slide that you speak about. We need to speak about what that revenue, what it means to us. And currently, we bring in $37 million. That's what's being put at risk, because you said earlier, the renewal almost always pass. $28.7 million actually comes to this district because of the proportionate share that we have to do, that we do. It concerns me, and this is my last year, and you want to leave things better than you found them. And if we lost, because this is not a renewal, this would be a new referendum. And if we put that at risk and we lose those funds, then that safety, security, and mental health component, and the mental health I will share with you, we have seen amazing results from having those liaisons. And so I'm concerned because of the political climate. I'm concerned, as you said, the governor's speaking about giving teachers raises. If he already is going to come out with funding, how does that affect the referendum if we're saying that's what we want to do? And so those are my real concerns. And now I will share with you out of the other side of my mouth. I admire this board because, like we did originally, is we decided to take it in our own destiny. And I think that's positive. But genuinely am fearful that with the temperament of the community today, people with the conversation of ending property taxes altogether, how is that going to be perceived when they come in to vote? That I was speaking to Mr. Ward, and people would challenge the 0.75 from time to time, but he shared with me, and you can agree or not, that they're actually angry now when they call about it, getting their tax bills. So how does that manifest itself when they come to the polls for now a new referendum versus just renewing? So board members, that's my concern. And
Can I ask a question? What is so if this were to fail, if we went forward with the new language and we weren't to be successful, when would be the next opportunity that we'd have to come forward with bringing back the mental health and school safety? Is it 2 years?
I don't know.
I don't-
Does anybody know?
Yeah,
If it fails, you can go back up in 2 years, but you can no longer call it an extension. That was a recently passed law.
An extension?
You can so for the
It wouldn't be
full
a
pennies,
renewal again.
for the half pennies and the millage, if it fails the first round, next round, you can no longer call it an extension, but you can go back up with a new one. So we had discussed this at length, and if I could, all I have to do is compare. All I have at my disposal, I can't predict the future, is comparing the renewal 64 to 24, which is a plus 40, to this one, which is a plus 45. I also believe with some of the enhancements we talked about, I could probably get that up to 67, maybe 68, and drop that down. You're now talking, I mean, really solid numbers. So I share your thoughts, which is the sure thing in one level seems like the renewal will pass. It's the least risky. But I'm looking at two sets of numbers, and the voters are telling me on the same poll. And one of the things we do to make sure you understand this, we rotate these questions. We don't ask them in the same order because there's a thing in polling called ordering effect. If I ask you 19 questions in a row, you eventually get bored with them, right? To minimize, you can never get rid of ordering effect because you're getting A and B, you're getting B and A, so it's to you. But to mitigate it, so statistically, this is. If you were to ask me which is the surer route, I'd say this one is because it polls higher. But I hear what you're saying. It's probably an easier message to go out into the community and say, no change, everything's good. So, but this polls a little higher.
But I think that you could go, in the case of the 0.75 renewal, we have a story to tell with our mental health. We have the kids that we built. We have safety and security on every campus. Those are things that they can see, and we're renewing that. And I think that's a powerful marketing tool.
Absolutely.
Right?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
If you went to a mill, this 3/4 stays intact, it's just an add-on.
No, I understand that. But
I mean, I
think-
know I was asking.
But
Yes.
oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. He was asking if the .75
How would the
were made
split be?
dedicated for school safety and mental health.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
all right.
Oh, okay.
But-
Yeah, thank you.
But it also, it isn't going to go for teacher raises because you can't give a raise on a millage. It's going to go for bonuses, if you will. It's going to go for stipends. And so I think that those that think they're going to get a raise if they support this, that is not the case.
Right.
And I think that's going to become pretty clear. Or at least it shouldn't because
It's non-reoccurring.
It's not recurring.
Right.
So then what happens if it fails in 4 years and suddenly you're out
Now what do you do?
$40 million?
Right.
That's right. I mean, it
So is there,
genuinely, I think that also for me, by the way, that as we discuss this, that consensus needs to be 100% in my mind, like 5-0. And I'm going to do what those of you that have to live with it after the fact. I'm just saying that up front, but I genuinely am concerned for what happens. And if 2 years, we lose $56 million, what does that look like for the district and for those programs that are in place?
so the 58% renewal that we got, was that in 18 or 22?
The last one,
So 22. What was it in 18? Do you know?
I do not know.
56?
Oh, 56.
No way. It went up?
Yeah.
I thought it went up.
I can't remember, but it was almost exactly the same.
Yeah, it was close.
Thought it went down. Okay.
We pulled it
So-
out.
Even if it could have.
I'll verify, but it's right in there. There was not a big difference.
So the one thing to consider also, 18 versus 22. In 18, we set up the PAC, and we did a lot of messaging on this. In 22, we played that game of, well, we don't want anybody to, come out against it, or let's people are satisfied with what we're doing with this, so let's just kind of lay low, and we did not set up a PAC for it.
Right.
I guess in this other component here, if we're talking about teacher pay and so on and so forth, I think there are other stakeholder groups who are going to be talking about this, which I guess could be a good thing, or it could backfire based on which groups oppose that, you know? So I don't know. I'm just saying last go around we did nothing.
Well, and so the only other resource that I have, and you're brilliant, by the way, so this is.
Oh, thank you.
But I also have my guy who did manage my 3 campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent him this polling information, and he's not, I guess he's a competitor to what you do. But anyway, he thinks a lot of you, by the way.
He does? Oh,
Yes.
also nice to hear. Keep going.
But his concern was because of the slide. These are people you're calling saying, would you vote for it? That does not mean when they're in the booth that they vote for it. You know what I mean? He said there's always a slide. People will say great things like, yeah, I want to give teachers pay. So that's a positive. But when they get there, they're going to go, I'm not going to add another $123 to my tax bill or whatever.
So it's an interesting point because what we did an extensive analysis of the polling we did from 20 to 22 and then 22 to 24, and that was true-ish in the 20 to 22 where we polled about 6-point drop on average. For some reason last cycle, and maybe it was my brilliance, just joking, of course, that we changed how we approach some of this ballot language, and the on average changed. Now, I'm taking Monroe County out. I have no idea what happened there because it went up like 20 points. But overall, there's about a 3 to 4 point on average slide, or it stays the same, which is precisely why we work so hard, excuse me, on getting the ballot language as high as I possibly can before we send it to the voters. I like to say when we do that, our best piece of direct mail will be when the vote by mail ballots go out, because they'll see that and they'll say, wow, this is really good stuff. And keep in mind too, this election year, there's a misinformation out there that presidential elections, there's more political communications. No, because that only happens at that level if you have a U.S. Senate race. We're going to have a U.S. Senate race. We're going to have the entire cabinet up. We're going to have these referenda on the ballot as well. So you're going to have a lot of political noise out there, which means the better the ballot language, the harder it is if somebody were to come out in opposition to it.
The bottom line was he said he would have felt better if it was 80% or 85. So
I feel his pain, absolutely. The highest in the state, there's 2 high ones right now. Leon County's polling at 76, and Brevard, which is, as you know, very, very, very conservative, they're polling above 72% for 3 items: a half-penny extension from the schools, a millage increase, and a half-penny to clean up the Indian River Lagoon. All polling very, very high, and those things have been passing like crazy. We've been doing all the work in Brevard as well.
I wonder if there's, of course we only have 75 words, but I wonder if there's a way that we could almost like reference that we're trying to maintain what we've already got, that without calling it a renewal.
Got 6 words.
Well, okay, you know.
Well, you can do that through your campaigning. I mean, through your marketing. Absolutely.
That this is not really entirely new, right? That, you know, that we've already got a millage in place.
And it's impossible
Scott,
to
can we
go
say
for it.
renew-ish?
Yeah, can we use hyphenated words and just extend it?
They count as 2 according to the courts.
Can we renew and go for a 0.25 on its own?
Do 2 separate initiatives? That's interesting. I don't know. I don't know legally if you can.
I don't think so. I've never seen it anyway. It's interesting.
I don't know that you can.
Separate them.
Yeah.
I don't know you can. I don't know if you can. It's a good question, though.
I don't know. It's a good question.
An interesting question.
We can find the
That great a
answer.
question, I wanted to answer.
Mr. Chairman, that was brilliant.
Except it's probably a bad idea.
Mr. Vancouver, I do have one more question. To play politics a little bit, I don't think education is a political issue, but looking at where we are currently in a midterm election, and generally who comes out in a midterm, relative to where we are at the national scale at this point. I think there's going to be a turnout that's slightly more blue this go around, which I think even improves our chances with something like this, even though I would think that red-leaning folks would support this initiative as well. But do you think that skew would make any difference relative to where we are currently with politics in Florida?
Yes,
Yeah.
gently. And it's a complicated answer because Florida, there seems to be a moat in Florida from the rest of the country. Now, what just happened this week in Texas, 21-point swing. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to, the trade winds right now, if you look at a bunch of variables, the trade winds right now are blowing pro-Democrat, pro-blue, as it were. So. That's the longer answer to your short question, which is, yeah, I do think the current climate will positively impact that. But you could also say the current climate will also include potentially an overall tax reduction. Well, what's interesting about the overall tax reduction, it holds every proposal, the only ones that are on the table right now. So the governor has said he wants to do something, but he hasn't written anything. The Senate hasn't either. And they're reticent to do so, by the way.
Yep.
All of them hold schools harmless. Now, they also claim to hold law enforcement harmless. The math doesn't work on that, so that's what they're trying to work out. But that might work to our advantage. It also might work to our disadvantage. I wish I had a crystal ball. I put it in my budget. They don't give it to me. But if I had a crystal ball, I could tell you more. And yes, I'd love to get 80%. That's my objective, is to always get these things as high as possible.
Midterms just make me scary because generally you've got less of a turnout in a 26 versus a 28. But with the push from the governor's office, if they do get a ballot initiative on from property taxes versus some reinvigoration with the left with trying to center balance some things, in their opinion, it could be just how those factors all play together. I mean, old data is important, but really doesn't matter today versus what we're doing at this point. So just trying to be mindful of
and it is our
where we are in
intention
the
to come
climate.
back in the summer and poll again heading into the campaign season.
Because I agree with Mr. Mathias, I don't want to risk losing the $37.5 million, and just being as sure as we can that we've got the words in here and we can do the proactive
The governor race,
measurement.
right? So the governor's going to be decided. So I think that's going to pull
That'll help turn out. Yeah.
turnout like a lot.
Yeah.
So
And we just message.
and what doesn't drive turnout are local referenda. Even other amendments on the ballot. What's going to drive turnout is sentiment towards what's happening in Washington. When Tip O'Neill said all politics is local, throw that out the window. Now, today, in this environment, all politics is national.
Yeah.
Okay, board.
So I think, thinking back to the millage, and when we first decided to do this, I think that there wasn't a person on this board that wasn't a wholehearted advocate. We were ready to go. We were ready to do what it took to get that millage passed. And I think, for me, fundamentally, I feel like it's time for us to do that with the inclusion of the teacher and the staff pay. And that, I do think it's tricky. I'm not, I'm standing up here telling you guys that the thought, with all of the political, that made me laugh that you said it's not political, because there is a lot of feelings and a lot of fake news, for lack of a better word. I'm trying to, not communicated well, ideas that, it's only teacher unions that are asking for more pay, and that we have more options in school choice, and that Florida is the #1 system in public education, and, well, they don't say public education, school choice, right? So it is a swirly, whirly thing that's happening out there for really, really educational terms being used. But I do believe that fundamentally, we know that teachers and staff in school districts deserve more money, period. I think our marketing needs to be smart. There's no doubt in my mind that it would be. I think the message needs to be clear. I don't think we need to try to mishmash things like it's what we believe just as firmly as we believe in the other millage. I agree. It's scary when you bring the other money onto the table. It is. But I do think it's worth the risk. I think that campaigning, if we need to go door to door, that's what we did. I've done it before. It's hot. I lost some weight. It's tough, but I do think it's just fundamentally important. This morning on the way here, I listened to a podcast, but it was talking about being able to fight for so your children don't have to fight for it. And for us to stand up. And I've always wanted to be in a position to stand up when it's time to stand up.
Excellent. But if I take the language away for a second, just ignore the language on these. If I were to say which is the lower risk, would you rather take that one or that one? I would argue that's the higher risk because it polls lower. And when we make some of the tweaks that you recommended, and Scott and we talked about, I think this number actually goes a little higher. Not much, because you're starting to hit a ceiling. I wish we can get 80. Never seen it.
But you're,
Children's Services Councils tend to get in the 80s, but also raising property taxes, right? But I think if this is, to me, the lower risk, because it polls higher within the same poll. I'm not comparing two outside polls. When you do that, statistically, they are both subject to the margin of error. So if those are different polls, you would this and this would be considered by the computer to be relatively equal, that the variation is statistical noise. It doesn't work that way when it's within the same poll, because you had actual people who said no to the first one and yes to the second one.
I think there would be, and again, our spirit has always been to control our own destiny.
Right.
But for me, with the climate, with the conversations about property taxes and property taxes, even though school districts are held harmless, they're going to read on their millage increase. I'm just telling you.
Sure,
I mean,
you're
this, that I 100% agree that our retirees, I'm not even worried about them because they tend to be very pro-schools, by the way, and pro-public school. But then there is, I'm concerned that we're calling it teacher pay when it's not really going to, it is going to enhance their pay, but it's not going to be an incremental
Salary.
increase to what they're making. It's going to be done through stipends and negotiation, right?
Yeah.
I'm also concerned that when we're doing that, is there a chance of supplanting those dollars, because we still haven't ever talked about our service workers and all those folks that deserve consideration. I'm mainly concerned just putting this money at risk. But I promise you, I will be out there campaigning for whatever this board decides, because I won't be running, but I'll be running for this, whatever.
Maybe our tagline could be better than Ozempic.
I agree. What I think makes me feel a little bit better is learning more about the statistical significance of what you're saying here and the fact that we only have to get 50 plus 1, not 60. We were talking like a constitutional amendment. 60 would scare the heck out of me.
Me too. And it gets proposed by somebody every year in the
Right.
legislature, and it hasn't passed yet.
So I think given where that is, I think this recommended language is really good. We can make a couple tweaks that I think make it even better. And if we fight like heck, like we always do, I'm willing to risk it as well. I think we can get this done, and I think it's worth it. So that my vote would be to support going for the 1 mil and get to work.
Okay. But we're not voting right now.
No, I agree. I'm just going to put that out there for the
We're just trying to reach
consensus.
some
Yeah,
consensus.
for sure.
Mrs. Cunningham.
You know, I think that the five of us sit each year when it's time for salary negotiations, and we talk about, we want to give more money, our heart is there, I wish we could, and we all know the constraints that we have. And nothing comes without risk. And I guess I like to think of myself as a risk taker. Mr. Mathias, I respect your wisdom, and there's a lot of home truth in what you say. But sometimes you have to risk something to get something else. So I think that the consensus of how I feel is that we need to try. It's hard to sit up here every year, year after year, and say, if we had more, we'd give it. We're doing the best we can if we don't take advantage of this opportunity. So I'm all in for knocking on doors, doing whatever it is we have to do to get it passed. And I know that we can depend on a lot of help from some really good people out there. They're nodding their heads, and they're going to work hard, and I think we'll be successful. So for me, it's a positive.
Mr. Dodd.
Fighting for our teachers is never the wrong answer. Do the 1 mil, right?
Okay. Dr. Luke.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm on board with the 1 mil. Okay.
All right, so our next steps will be in regards to the referendum language. It does need to go on a board agenda for your approval, so we'll play around with that, send it out to you. You can make sure that it is exactly as you would like before we put it on the board agenda. And I did have one question because staff had asked the question. I haven't had a chance to ask you this yet. We know that your poll showed us that 81% of the voters were more likely to vote for it if it included the Independent Citizens Committee language. We were curious about strategically, do you form that committee on the front end as advocates, Or does that hurt you if people don't like the people you've selected for the committee? What strategically is the best way to form that committee and when?
I've done this a lot. I've never been asked that question. I would suggest after, for the very reason you identified. And
Okay.
it's also a great talking point. Let's say you're talking to a group and they say, you know, I support my teachers, but I'm not trusting that you guys are going to spend the money correctly. That's the first person you want to ask to serve on this Citizen Oversight Committee, to say, sir or ma'am, would you serve on this committee to make sure, because you have a lot of protections in this. You have the statute which requires you to spend it on those things. You can't use this and go out and buy more buses or anything that's a 5-year capital life. But so you have that protection. Obviously, you're accountable to your voters. If you screw it up, they may not send you back. And then third, having a Citizens Oversight Committee, they can wave the red flag and say, hey, they're doing something wrong with this money. So I guess in light of that, I would say after the fact, say, yeah, we're going to appoint a Citizens Oversight Committee.
Okay.
So we'll get
Can we
that
discuss now his proposal?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind staying right there for a few more seconds. So if you'll recall, board, back in December, Ms. Owens came and did a great presentation on marketing strategies and our statewide efforts. And Dr. Luke, you hit it right on the head when you said this is an opportunity to change perception by doing some strategic marketing. And just from across the state, I could tell you that Mr. Van Corn and his team are highly respected amongst the superintendent's group, as well as our chief financial officers, our finance council, and he's been very successful. So he has provided to us a proposal to hire him and his company to help Ms. Owens and the rest of us to create our marketing materials, which I think would be a very good use of our funding. So if you have any questions, this will also be on the board agenda. So I wanted, before you vote on this, I wanted you to ask Mr. Van Corn any questions you have about his proposal, a little bit about the marketing campaign and all that we're going to be doing over the next couple of months.
Mr. Brandenburg?
My only question is really more for you all, Mr. Cole, Diane. How do we fund this? Can we pay for this directly, or do we need to fundraise for this expenditure of this? Can we use school district dollars to then try to increase a millage, or how is this $25,000 paid?
For his contract, and the answer is yes, we can.
Yeah, well, as long as the activities are appropriate activities that you're allowed to do, then you can use district funds.
Are you the person that determines what's appropriate and what's
I
not?
have to look at that.
Okay, cool. No, that just, I'm all good with the report. I just want to make sure I understand how we fund it.
Yeah.
So I've got no other questions.
I hope that's legal, because we've done about 18 of them.
Well, good. Well, I guess I should have looked at you instead.
What's the statute of limitations?
Mrs. Cunningham?
I don't have questions. I would just like to say I would look forward to working with you if the vote goes that way.
Likewise,
Hopefully you
thank
can
you.
help us.
Mr. Dodd?
No, I think it's a smart idea.
Dr. Luke?
Similar.
I have just one question. Is it a money-back guarantee?
Yeah, I was going to ask that same thing. If we don't hit 66%.
You have a money-back guarantee that I'll do everything I can to help pass this.
Are you going to poll again, whatever this new language is going to be?
That's outside of my pay grade, but I want to very much. Either the school
Why is it
district
outside of
can.
yours?
Well, it's $20,000 to do a poll, so I'd either ask the teachers union if they would fund it. If we develop a PC, would they fund it? The teachers union usually does, because what we try to do, looking globally, we'll probably have about 20 to 25 of these on the ballot. What they'll want to do is poll it, and you probably don't want to hear this part of it. So those that are doing really well, they don't need to put a lot of energy, effort, or money into. But those that are getting close, they'll want to put their like we had a situation in was it Flagler where they were at like 55 and fading. There was an active group opposed to it. When we redid Manatee, all the people who were opposed to it the first time come on board with it. So the teachers union didn't need to spend any more money on that. So I will strongly recommend it, and I will strongly advocate to try to find the money either through a PC or the teachers union.
Board, I would tell you it's critically important. I believe in the math. I mean, just so you know, I believe in the work that you do, the science of determining. And so we need to work together. I think that there are some other folks that need to be brought into the conversation, like the charters who benefit. And they have more freedom to how they can spend money and raise money.
Yep.
So we need to begin to develop our own strategy. But I would highly encourage that we do this additional polling once the final language, before it's on the ballot.
You're saying sooner rather than later?
Yes,
Before
sir.
we send it? Okay.
Did you say you didn't?
Yeah, I
agree
love
with
that. So the objective will be for us to redo the language, so you're happy with it, Scott, and then see if we can get another poll done.
How many of these do you expect on the ballot this year across the state, roughly, either renewals or increases?
About above 25.
Okay. And then we've got a list, or we can obviously get a list of what the other surrounding counties do from either a .75 or a full mill and what they spend it on, just as talking points as we move forward on this. So I think that's important to
I can send
to
you
know.
our current list. Department of Revenue keeps track of who's got what.
Yeah, and what they go towards. and
Well,
whether
I
it's-
think Orange County already does it.
Oh, I think they all do it to some
Seminole
degree.
does it.
Yeah,
I mean, so-
Marion
so
does it for
having that
different things, and
information would-
yeah,
Yeah, Marion just did a 20-year half penny for the roads.
Right.
I'm sorry, full penny for roads, and a 10-year half penny for schools, plus they have the
like
millage.
transportation based or something.
They did a
didn't it?
transportation one. That's
Yeah.
why I-75 is always crowded
Yeah.
when you come by Marion County, because people use the interstate for intra-county transportation. They're so far behind.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you driving down.
Yes, thank you for coming. It was a lovely drive from Tallahassee, and I would say it's a lot, at least you came, it's a little bit warmer here, but I can't even tell you
Not
that
much.
today. So, but thank you for all your work, all your
Okay,
help.
3.03, instructional materials. Dr. Feltner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we are back, having a follow-up conversation after the board meeting last week. I appreciate your time today to have some more conversation around the ELA adoption materials. I have with me today Bridget Marshburn, our media services and instructional materials manager. I also have several other people in the room that I wanted to recognize. I have our 612 curriculum manager, Seth Edwards, is in the room. Our K-5 curriculum manager, Beth Petty, is in the room. Our 612 program specialist for ELA, Nasa Oliveras Torres, is in the room. And our K-5 program specialist for ELA, Sherry Smith, is in the room. And so I just wanted to acknowledge them because we've spent a lot of time doing this work together, and so they're here today to just hear the conversation and be able to support any way they can. I also have Marta Ramirez and Kathleen Daniels in the room from College and Career Readiness, because you'll see when we get to the fiscal impact, it does impact some purchases in terms of ELA for College and Career Readiness, so thank you for being here as well. And then I do have representatives from Benchmark and Benchmark Advanced and McGraw-Hill as well in the room. So I just want to acknowledge that. So thank you, Board, for the opportunity to have this conversation. I just wanted to review a few things. You do have a folder in front of you. It should have all the slides that we'll go through today, as well as some of the materials to include what's included in the, especially in the Benchmark Advanced materials. The pictures were small on the slides, so I wanted to make sure that you had a copy of exactly what is coming with that recommendation in terms of what teachers will actually receive. So just a reminder that when we choose materials, we do choose it based on our mission and vision. We also looked at the work that we're doing with the instructional framework. You'll find that in the back of your folder, there is a copy of the ELA rubric that we adjusted in terms of how we discerned the components of the programs and how teachers evaluated those components on the committee. So this is an opportunity for us to have conversations so that next week on the board agenda, we can make a recommendation for the materials that we would like to adopt. And then there is an opportunity for the public to petition, to object for the materials, and that will be on the website from February 10th through March 12th, just in case. So our timeline looks like this. You'll notice that I put this on here again just so that you notice that we do have 2 big back-to-back adoptions. So as ELA is adopted this year, we are in the process of beginning to consider the math adoption for next year. So we have 2 very large adoptions coming into play back-to-back. And so I just wanted to make sure that you had that timeline in front of you to know that that's what's coming. So again, we have a committee of people that oversaw the adoption process, and I just want to acknowledge them again and say thank you to all of them for their hard work. So once again, we had 3 choices that were state approved for elementary and 3 choices for secondary. McGraw-Hill, HMH, and Benchmark for elementary, and McGraw-Hill, Savvis, and Think Circa for secondary. And again, noticing that when we took it to vote to the school sites, as well as the committee in the elementary K-5 schools, we overwhelmingly chose Benchmark Advance as our option, our recommended option. So just to look at what comes with that, there are several components. You'll notice that every student has a kind of a newspaper reader. They have an opportunity for some small group text. It's a K-5 comprehensive program, so phonics, the phonics and phonemic awareness components all come with that. It is a package, so it comes priced as a package. It was approved by the state as a package. So, which is different than what we adopted 5 years ago, and we adopted in kind of some pieces. So this is a little bit different in terms of kind of back to that K-5 comprehensive package. There is digital access for both teachers and students in this adoption.
Is that the bathroom?
Busted pipe.
And so looking at secondary grades 6 through 12, you'll also notice that in the last adoption, we had a 6, 8, 9, 12 adoption. Our 3 choices were the same, so we have a 6, 12 adoption. And McGraw-Hill was the choice. That is the Study Sync materials. We also already have Study Sync for 9, 12 currently. This is a revised edition that met the criteria for the new state adoption list. So you will see it is a revised portion of Study Sync that we'll be recommending to you. There are some components with this as well. There are some print novel choices. We are going to bring you a recommendation with a pricing that includes a novel. We have some choices for consumable or hardcover copies. It does include digital access for everybody. And so those are the components, most of them that come with McGraw-Hill. So I thought what you might be most interested in is somewhat of the estimated cost. So for K-5, here's what we're recommending. For K-2, for a 5-year adoption, it includes a teacher's edition, and that the ratio is 1 to 18 and 1 to 22 in terms of teacher's editions. It includes all of the phonics and phonemic awareness program components for K-2. You'll notice that comes up to about 1.4 mil, and the English Language Arts 3.5 for a 5-year adoption. Online access assessments comes up about 1.5. We did add in shipping. One of the things we try to include is all the shipping costs, and we're looking at an estimated cost of about $3 million.
Amazon Prime.
In 610, you want to ask a question?
It was hers. It's a good point. You know, it's a shame that there's such a monopoly, you know, and you have to go through the depository versus, you know, Amazon Prime sometimes. But
Yes. There's,
Some drone or there's robots.
this is
you
a
can't even go pick it up yourself either.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
one-stop ordering shop.
You can't?
No,
No,
we
you can't even
we
go pick it
tried.
up.
Because I go drive a truck for $146,000.
Right. We have some trucks we could use.
Yeah.
I know. Yep.
In grades 6 through 10, considering the fast testing, tested areas, we are recommending a teacher's edition, a 1-to-1 student consumable edition, online access that includes test prep that is online that can be printed if needed, and a novel for a 5-year adoption. So we did poll some of the members of the committee, and they would like a one-to-one consumable edition option, meaning that students would have a workbook to be able to annotate text versus a class set of just the hard copies of the text. I think it will save us on a lot of printing. When we print out articles, we have them right here, and kids can annotate and do the work within that, and we can see evidence of their thinking. So this is the preferred from the teachers at the school sites.
I'm sorry, can I hone in on that word novel?
Yeah.
So is there one novel
I was gonna
included?
same thing.
One novel? Or is it?
So we have lots of options in terms of the
Okay.
novel, all right? So it is, if you order one novel for every sixth grade next year, every sixth grade student next year, it would be one novel. But if we want to order 5 novels and use class sets for novels, we have lots of options. Does that make sense?
Which one are we picking?
So we would like to have some discussion about that. Either way, it's the same price with a novel. I think we have to make some decisions, honestly, about how do we want to roll that out in terms of the purpose of the novel.
Sure.
So if we have 1,000 different novels out in schools, it's very difficult to plan for how they align to the benchmarks when I have 2 ELA curriculum specialists doing that work, right? So when we think about if we think about what does every sixth grader or seventh grader or eighth grader need to know and be able to understand, we want to make sure that we align some of the novels that maybe better suit a certain point of the year and an essential benchmark. So we've got some work left to do in that.
I read an article over the weekend that I thought was rather timely for this sort of discussion. So it started off just talking about how professors in film programs are finding that their students are unable to have the attention span to sit through an entire film anymore without pulling out their phone. They said it's crazy because this is the type of assignment that kids would have loved as homework, and now it's like a chore to go watch a movie, right? But then the article also took a little twist and said this is part of a larger issue in that people are finding that kids are not able to read an entire novel anymore because all we expose them to are excerpts. And so I started thinking about my own kids, and I've had 3 kids now in high school, and I can sincerely count on one hand the number of novels collectively that they've read in high school, and I thought, this is just very different than when I was in school, and I think I read more than the 3 of them total for their entire high school careers in the first year. And so I guess I'm wondering, is that what we're expecting from high schools, that they're rarely reading a novel, or is this the direction that we want you to read more than one, or maybe the benchmarks don't really align with reading a whole novel anymore? I don't know, but I just thought I'd ask the question.
It's a great question.
Thank you.
Of course, we want students reading novels. Like I would never say no. We don't want students
Right.
reading books, right? I also think that we have an opportunity and an obligation to teach the benchmarks.
Sure.
And sometimes aligning all those benchmarks to a complete novel, it's time consuming, depending on how long it takes to teach the novel. One of the reasons why we're going to bring you a choice, our recommendation is to include a novel, is for that very reason, so that we know that students at least have read a full book at some point in the year, and we can plan for that. So while we would hope that teachers are still letting kids use independent reading time, we have libraries, media centers that are allowing kids to check out multiple books, and we still want to encourage that love of reading. The programs tend to have, StudySync tends to have more excerpts currently.
Yeah.
And that is more conducive to teaching the benchmarks in a way that they have a certain portion of the text that addresses that benchmark specifically. So I understand that alignment completely.
Sure.
But we do want to ensure that there are some opportunities for kids to be able to read an entire book.
Yeah, I'd be
put it
interested
in
to
their
see where
hands.
you land on that. Certainly, I recognize the value of teaching the benchmarks, but then also, it's bizarre to think you could leave 12th grade and, not able to read a whole book on your own without.
Yeah, I think we have the challenge and opportunity to figure out how do we manage how we want it. If it's a district adopted material, we have an obligation then to put it out there aligned to the benchmarks and some guidance on how to utilize it.
Sure.
And then how many of those can we do, right, with 2 people at our office? Do you know what I mean? So we've got to manage that. So there's lots of conversation to be had about how many do we want to do, how do we want to roll that out?
Okay.
Can I follow up? I have like
Sure.
2 or 3 thoughts. The first thought is, and I'm just going to pick at Mr. Edwards a little bit here. But like, I see The Great Gatsby as one of the novel choices that we have. And him and I have had great discussions about that terrible book. Anyway,
Good job, Mr. Edwards.
I read it in 10th grade. I hated it. Like, I
Hated
put
it.
it in the bottom of all the novels I
too.
ever read.
Doesn't mean we have to
He loves
choose
it.
it. It's just an
Really?
option.
Oh, that
have
explains a
discussion
lot.
about it later. Anyway, I'm totally kidding. I just saw him here and thought it would be a good opportunity to pick on him. Anyway,
Okay.
we've been teaching that novel for, I don't even know when it was written, if I'm being honest with you guys. So really long time. So to say that we have 2 specialists that are guiding this work, I feel is a little bit disingenuous. We have high school teachers that have been in this district that have been teaching that novel for far longer than this material has been in existence. So I would certainly hope that we would rely on them to do some of the work and to share the work that they've been doing. I know that that's
Me
the
too.
reason I
That would
read
be
it,
great.
is Jensen was a sophomore, right? And I was like, I've never read that book. Let me read it with you. To the point of, I think she read 6 or 7. Like Frankenstein was on that list. The Great Gatsby was on that list of all the pretty horses. Like there was a bunch of books. That's the only one of my kids that's ever brought home novels. Nobody does anymore. But to that point, they're there. And the teachers know where they're aligned. And I believe they know the benchmarks and how to work that. Like I would certainly think that that teacher would at least. So I think we have a lot more experts than 2 in the room.
Maybe there's some opportunities for writing teams to get these
Yeah.
people together.
Yeah, absolutely.
The second thing I was thinking was just in access, one-to-one student consumables, elementary, middle, high school. My personal experience has been that I cannot get my hands on those books, ever. And so I would really like for us to consider that. And I hear the argument that we don't ever get them back, or if a student takes it home and doesn't bring it back, then they don't have a resource. We have to mitigate that. I just feel like that is like probably one of my highest asks of this work going forward, with such challenging texts that our students are interacting with, and knowing that there are parents that want to support their kids and they don't have the access to support them. I have sat with literacy coaches, I have sat with teachers. I still couldn't tell you how to access the full text online. And I have been in that text online, right? But that, I'm just showing you like the level of, we're not compatible. And we talked about telling our story. Let's tell a story that invites people to work with their kids at home. I remember sitting with a principal in elementary school and being like, how do I help? We'll read every night. I can't because I don't have the books that they're reading. So help me get the books they're reading so that I can then support their work at home. So
Sincerely, when my elementary kid brings home the book the story that they're reading, her scores on the test will be 15 to 20 points higher than if we had not read that together.
Right.
So
So what you're asking for is if we do a one-to-one consumable, that it's allowed to go home. So what's your?
they got to be able to come home and
something has to be able to come home. And if
Something.
it's going to be the online version, then I think you need to send directions on how to get into that online version. And I think that becomes a lot more work heavy than just sending the book home.
and truth be told, though, if given the 2 options, and I know I can go log on, I don't know that I will. But I'm opening her backpack and I see the book.
There's a book.
Oh, now it's in my hand. I'm gonna. Hey, Ashlyn, come read this with me.
There's a book.
I think that there's a lot more reading that happens when that physical book comes home.
And I would ask that if that becomes a problem that we can't afford because so many kids are losing books or materials aren't coming back, then that's a discussion we can have. But how do we get those materials available to kids at home is my number one concern with any of our ELA adoptions. So.
Noted.
So my question was similar to that, but not quite the same. What is the thought process on one-to-one consumables 6 through 10, but not K through 5? In my mind, that seems flipped. But
Well, they already have it.
okay, so I just didn't see that in the listings here. It just
It's not an
showed.
option. So the elementary kids, the interesting piece is you will see the elementary part come home.
Right.
I have actually worked with this particular publisher in other states the last few
Sure.
years. And so they have basically it's almost like a newspaper.
Yeah.
That's a consumable that has about 10 stories in it.
Yep.
Kind of compiled, I would say. I'm going to guess. That might be lofty.
Sure.
But for each unit, it's a 3-week unit, and that is a consumable. I mean, kids are writing in it all the time. They are using it, and I often found that they went home with kids after, especially after they were done with it. It like went home so people could see what they were reading. And
Got it.
So-
So all the K through 5 were just a student's edition that is consumable?
Yes.
Okay, got it. And then I'm just looking at the differences between the K through 5 and the 6 through 10, and it seems like the big difference is the assessments, and I would assume that's what's driving up that cost being a little more versus the 2, or am I connecting dots where they don't connect? Like K through 5, so the K through 2 includes the teacher's edition, student's edition, online access, and assessments. Same with the 3 through 5. And then on the other one, we get the novel, but not the assessments. Is that just differences between how they're structured, or does that make
Yeah.
sense?
So I think the difference in 610, the price difference is somewhat of the novel.
Okay.
The novel's about $320,000, is give or take a bit, is
Yeah.
what a novel, we priced out. So without the novel, it's about 1.9. I think it's two totally different publishers, for one thing.
Got it. Okay.
So that's also hard to compare.
Sure.
In terms of the cost,
Okay.
right? So in terms of K2, the reason there's a K2 difference and a 3.5 difference is just the materials for the phonics and phonemic awareness
Sure.
portion, the foundational.
And the K5 was benchmark, is that what we're recommending, correct? So then those assessments are built in. Do we have different assessments outside of this package that we look at 6 through 10?
No, it's included as well.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Just the language wasn't
So there's a test prep
different. Yeah.
opportunity.
Got it. Okay.
And this is, to add on to the cost, this is, the one-to-one gets renewed every year, but is there going to be an additional annual cost?
No.
Okay.
So, lesson learned
Okay. Yeah.
from previous adoption.
Great.
We actually, when we did the other adoption 5 years ago, that was a 1 year, what we had priced and brought to you was a 1 year cost. So we've actually spent, gosh, almost, was it $300,000 a year in foundation materials for the last 5 years. So we have priced it ahead of time this time.
Awesome.
So so basically it's sort of like the other adoptions where you buy it for 5 years, it's coming,
Good.
whether you want it or not, you just tell them how many you need. You know what I mean? So,
And
does that make sense?
It does. To that point, how many we need, how does that fluctuate? I mean, obviously I know how student population fluctuates, but like if we lock it in based on these numbers today,
Yep, it's a bad
obviously if we need more, I think we can get more, but if we overbuy, we
You're
just
still paying for those.
own them and they sit in our libraries. I know that's impossible to gauge.
Send them home with parents.
Yeah.
There you go.
They can have an extra copy.
Yeah.
You get an extra copy.
So we try, we look at, obviously, schools share. If one school enrollment goes up and down, we try to Bridges Department does a great job of moving that around to
Yep.
try to mitigate that. However, just notice, we've used growth planning numbers as well as who's in the seats right now.
Yeah.
And we predict as well as we can.
Sure.
Obviously, for the next 5 years, it's a little,
Hard. Yeah. And I just think too, once you get to like the 6 through 10 level, I think you're going to have a number of students that just will use the online access and be good with that. Now, if you need to do it based off the consumables and it's assignments, so then they're going to have to use the consumables for that to function. I just don't want to, the best we can control, not buying one of everything if those students on average or what we see in the data, they're not always going to use it. So if we could buy 80% of one thing, still have the teacher sets or whatever else, if those are utilized to the full degree. I certainly want to get people what they need, but I also don't want stuff sitting around just because we have it, but the students that we bought them for don't need it or build it into the lessons. So that's what I've got there. Just more of a comment than a question, but I would look at Dr.
think
Luke and Mr.
just-
Dodd on those. This
just
is not
so
my
you know that
wheelhouse,
It's
so.
just a bad system. The problem is if you buy 80% today and you say, okay, 20% of you don't get the materials because in the future we won't have this many kids in seats anymore, well, then the kids today don't have books,
I will tell you too, that I think ELA is a huge adoption, right? And so when we think about what we need for kids, I want what teachers want, and I want what kids need, and part of that is having text in front of you, right? So I understand teaching kids how to read digitally. I also think it's really important that they understand how to navigate text in front of them first. And when we looked at this adoption, remember, we've had this studies thing for 9-12, and we've not had a one-to-one consumable.
Okay.
I think it's an ask that they've requested in 9-10, and I would like to be able to honor that request. Because I do think that's part of we went from sort of paper to all digital,
Yeah.
and that was a pretty hard shift for us. And this is a great option that brings us kind of back to the middle, that allows for both, at least in the tested areas. So,
Okay.
I like it a lot, and I have a question. On the novel, are we locked into a particular novel, or can it be changed in forward-moving years?
it depends on how many we order.
Okay.
So, if you think, we get a novel per student, correct?
Okay.
So
Okay.
when I say we have a lot of
Yeah,
options.
you do.
We
So
got lots of options.
Teachers could get together and, okay, I like that a lot.
I mean,
If they read them.
I got some ideas. I'm not quite sure how they're going to flesh out, but
Well, I can tell you, I think this is wonderful. I have a grandson in middle school, and I am a doting grandma. So every time he's reading a novel, I buy the novel, and we have a Zoom session every single day, and we go over those chapters. This is phenomenal. I mean, there's such great things that can happen with this. So I really like it a lot.
And we do have novels. I mean, Amplified that we have currently and Study Sync both. We have some novels in classrooms for sure, right? And plus, all the text sets that we've had previously, like, you know.
And I think that's one of the angles where I was asking my question, because I know that we have novels. I've seen them. I've physically seen them. I've seen, shelves full of them. I've seen Gaylords full of them at the end of adoption, so I know that they exist. I'm just wondering why my kids aren't reading them. That's what has me puzzled. Maybe it's not part of the scope and sequence or the blueprint or whatever we call it today, or maybe the teacher's just choosing to do something different. I don't know. But anyway, that's where I just really appreciate your comments about having that discussion and involving the teachers and your program specialists and figuring out how do we regroup and what's the standard going forward for us. So I appreciate that. I have one other question, but it's really, I think, targeted towards the publishers. They're here today, right? So one of the things that has been amazing that folks have done in the past, that I as our team is writing these blueprints, drafting them over summertime, and I've sat on those teams in the past, and it's helpful when you have the physical materials to be able to start working all that instead of just trying to view it all online. And some publishers have provided those materials, at least, a set for the people writing the blueprints to be able to do that ahead of time. Is that something y'all would be willing to do?
Excuse me, Mr. Dodd. Would y'all come to the podium, please?
Yeah, I think that it just makes a world of difference when you can work from the physical books, before you've ordered thousands of them, right? So that way you can get a jump start on that work.
The answer is yes.
That's amazing.
For benchmark, we do that already. I mean,
All right.
Yes, yes.
Great.
And yeah, from McGraw-Hill, the same. We can, if Nasa, if you don't already have them, I can drop them off tomorrow. I should have brought them today. I do have folders in my car, but no samples on hand. So I can definitely assure that the teams will be adequately prepared to create those curriculum maps. For
Yeah,
the teachers.
I think that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for providing.
Thank y'all for coming.
Yeah.
So we look at 11, 12, we do have a couple options.
I'm done. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought we were all done.
That's all right. For 11, 12, there is a way to save some cost. You're looking at now, kids are starting to diversify in their courses, right? You have some other courses that students opt for. But in our straight options, you could do a 1-to-1, the same as we did 610 for the consumable, and also a novel. You'll notice that both options include a novel, which we think is still important. The option 2 has just a class set, where each teacher would have a class set, a hard copy of a class set of the student editions. And it's cost savings of 100 and some odd thousand. So it's not a huge cost savings, but it is a cost savings. I will tell you that our recommendation is option 2 to bring to you when we talk about the total budget to do in 11 and 12. And that would include the shipping is less because we would only ship it once, right? The copies would only come one time. It would not be a recurring cost. So when we look at the total impact of the needs of the instructional materials budget, this is sort of what we're looking at. If you look at the ELA adoption itself, looking at all three of those, you'll notice that comes to about 5.8. When you take the top 3 lines. Just as a comparison, 5 years ago, we spent 6.4 in 2021. So, doing a little better.
That's good.
And then if you add on the advanced placement from College and Career Readiness, it's about $138,000. We also have a gap year. We've got some materials that we still have to reorder and pay for because we haven't adopted again. Hope is there's not even an adoption option right yet, so we have to reorder those materials. It's about $98,000. The consumable shipping is about $100,000, and we do have some carryover. According to finance, it's about $1 million. So you're looking at a bottom line of about 5.2. So.
And when we commit to the vote to adopt these materials, we're actually our plan is to purchase all of these.
Yes.
Okay.
So our plan is to purchase, when we think about, our plan is to purchase the K-5 comprehensive package, 610 one-to-one consumable digital access, plus a novel,
Right.
and 11-12 class sets, plus a novel.
I just asked because that caught us by surprise one time when we thought we were approving this, and they said, no, you all were just voting on the adopting the materials. We didn't actually have the money to buy them. And so we didn't buy, the
Well,
K2
so,
science right
yeah.
away. That was another year.
This vote is the recommendation
Sure.
to approve
That's right.
our recommendation for the publishers, right?
Okay.
Like, you're not approving this budget, but
Right.
I figured you wanted to know how much it costs
Yeah,
before
yeah.
you approve the. Remember, we only have 3 options on each side, so
Right.
if you don't approve this option, we gotta go back and you're probably gonna have to say.
Right.
And this is what the teachers have voted for.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Ward, do you have any comments on the budget?
Yeah.
You want to, please come up.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm every discussion.
Those are fun. Yeah, so there's like $1 million left over, and they've been rolling it over in the past because they've been holding off on some of the adoptions that they hadn't been necessary. So, but again, they're going to be buying some reoccurring stuff with that $1 million that they always buy every year in the spring. So we typically budget around $3 million each year. So we'll be looking for another $1 to $2 million in our budget during budget season to come up to pay for the rest of it. So we'll have to find it. We don't have it sitting out to the side.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
No, sir.
Are you done now?
I'm done with your done.
Okay. All done? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. That brings us to board minutes.
Your agenda.
Okay, board member comments?
Nothing really to add today. The groundhog did see a shadow, so 6 more weeks of this 20-degree weather, so bundle up. But other than that, thank you for a productive workshop this morning. Always a pleasure to have some good dialogue, and look forward to the work ahead to get the referendum passed. So that's all I've got.
Excellent this morning. Really don't have any comments.
No, likewise, ditto all that.
I've got one comment. I got to tell you that I've never been prouder to sit on this board, and we will work hard and we'll get this 1 mill done with a whole lot of collaboration, but very proud of the discussion today. That's it. Superintendent?
I just want to thank Mr. Farnsworth and the great team over in facilities and maintenance. They have been hard at work dealing with some issues from the cold, and I know that when I spoke to Mr. Farnsworth yesterday, asking how things were going, they have been out in schools monitoring since 4:30 a.m. that morning. So I'm sure they're very tired and they're working very hard today. We did Mineola Charter was the only school that had significant damage due to some busted water pipes. They did close today, and Ms. Watts called early this morning, and they've communicated that to their family. But all of our schools, I think, have fared fairly well, and so we just want to say thank you. Please let your team know how grateful we are.
I have a question, but I'll ask you later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That was weird.
So I know that we've got, agreements for maintenance between, charters and whatnot, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I'm wondering how that falls into, because it's,
Yeah.
we're the building owner and.
Our folks were out there.
The scope of that
They're
agreement.
working on.
Over a certain amount of
Yes.
cars. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the rent they pay us.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Offset.
Zero.
Okay, attorney comments? Oh, Mr. McMillan.
Yeah, he had a
Okay.
call.
With any objections to adjourning? Great workshop.